this week's Guide Roundtable. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson. I'm here with Pro Staff Guides Slade Fedor, Cray Lutz, and Brendan Billinger. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. We got a beer sponsor this week.
We do. Rob Kinkler, good friend and client of ours, brought us a bunch of good Fort Collins beers that we've been sipping on the last few days. So thanks, Rob. Cheers.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
And yeah, the fishing has just been amazing. You know, we got a lot bigger playground. We got clear water, you know, all the way down to Casper and even below. Bighorn's been great. Seen some dry fly fishing this week.
Yeah.
You were dry fly fishing, weren't you?
Yeah, yesterday, Bean and I were out streamer fishing, and the streamer bite was good in the morning, but kind of died off there towards the afternoon. But yeah, there were pods of fish down here that were just going off. So we stopped and hooked a few of those. That was pretty fun. Big Betis hatch going, and yeah, I mean, I guess Craig, you saw a bunch up at Lusby.
There's a ton up top.
Bunch of fish looking up.
So, Bean, you've been out a bunch this week. How's it been going?
Great. The streamer bite's been on. We haven't caught any real big browns, but a lot of browns eaten. I'd say, you know, 2/3 of the fish are browns, and kind of 120. Craig got a nice 19 the other day, and they seem to be on the feed. And, streamers are great.
Yeah.
Bigger bugs, it seemed like.
Yep.
We were throwing, you know, a little tandem pair, and they were getting a lot of rainbows on that, but the browns were definitely more into like the bigger circus peanuts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then mid-morning was best when the sun came up, I thought.
Were they sucked up to the bank or
Yes, most of them.
with that high water?
Yeah, since it went up to 1,500 last week, the water's colder, and I think they're in the edges and the banks more than they were. So
Yeah, that water's fun to fish.
yeah, and it's nice and clear. If you have a white bug in the morning, you can watch them eat, so that's nice.
Yeah.
So we've got a new challenge for our Facebook fans and everyone watching the video. I pulled this out of my streamer box the other day, and it's organized, as you can see, but we wanted to challenge everyone to show us your messiest fly box.
Is that a
your-
bungee cord?
Yeah, and I don't even know how it got in there. It's the same one I gave you for your anchor.
Okay, cool.
It's part of it.
It's part of it. It's the hanging device. But we wanted to give everyone a challenge. Share your photos on our page or email them to us of your messiest ball of flies, etc.
Cup
Your
holder,
biggest bug.
whatever,
Yeah,
cooler.
anything disgusting.
Headliners.
So Ryan, you guys, you know, we've been really busy doing a lot of trips, but you and a few of the other guys got to go out and check out some of the Healing Waters guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Twice, didn't you? 2 different trips.
Yeah, we did Thermop, and then we did the Reef, and yeah, both of them are awesome. You know, that organization is just great. You know, we totally support it. It's so much fun to guide them.
Well, for those of you that don't know, I mean, Project Healing Waters is a foundation that takes wounded veterans fishing. And there's chapters all over the country, and we have a great Casper chapter here.
Yeah, Slade had the best story from that trip though. He took a veteran that has one arm. Yeah,
Yeah, he landed about 40 fish.
yeah,
He had this system rigged up where he could take his rod off. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it, but he'd cast with one hand, set the hook, stick it on, and then run the reel with that same arm, and it was amazing. He had it pretty dialed in, and it was really cool to see him just totally got it and nailed a bunch of nice fish.
Didn't the other guy have a pretty rad comment like after?
He did. He told, basically he said, you know, my friends aren't going to believe me that I got my ass kicked by a one-armed fly fishing. But he did. Badly. But no, it was fun. It was a really fun trip, and we always enjoy taking those guys out.
yeah. You know, big thank you to Derek Dietz, who's head of the Casper chapter. So thank you, Derek.
And all the veterans.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everything. Another cool thing we did, you guys we kind of did a wade fishing clinic.
Yeah.
Some new people who didn't really know how, from the basics on, basically how to fish, how to wade a river, read water, tie knots, bug selection. How'd that go the other day?
It went great.
It was good. Yeah.
You know, it was fun to get out of the boat for a day.
Yeah, we don't do that
You
often.
know, and
Wading guide?
yeah, we were wading guides.
Waiting guide.
But no, it was great. You know, it was the guys with High Plains Drifters. A lot of those guys came up, and we took them out and basically showed them how to rig, how to read water. Slade, you were on that trip with me, and no, it was awesome. You know, those guys learned a lot and really started catching fish on their own, which, you know, we don't show people a lot of times. You know, a lot of the guide trips, people just like to catch fish. You know, but we're actually going to try to start working that into our reports. You know, maybe show you our rigs a little bit, show you a little bit more. I know that, you know, the biggest thing that we hear as far as the water coming up is that people don't know where to fish. You know, 500 CFS, yeah, you can go to the outhouse hole and stand right there and drill fish. But, you know, I don't want you guys to shy away when you get a bit more water. You know, a good rule of thumb on the North Platte is that those fish, they just suck on inside corners. They do. You know, when you get confused, you know, find an inside corner where the whole bend of the river goes around. Those fish, they still want to be on the buffet. They don't want to work hard, but they still want to have, you know, that food source right there. So.
Yeah, and you know, another thing I think a lot of people, at least how I look at it, is when that river's at 500 CFS, those fish are concentrated in certain areas far more than they are when it's high like it is right now. You know, those fish are in this pool, they're in this pool, they're in this pool. They're not in any of that water in between. But right now, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I almost think this is when I would come wade fishing. Because there's fish everywhere.
You can spread out a little more.
Right. There's not, you don't need to fish
water.
this
You don't have to
hole.
wait your turn.
Right, exactly. Those fish are stacked throughout any water that's moving, which right now is all of our water.
Yeah.
You know, I fished inside corners, outside corners, the middle of the river, shelves, troughs. There are fish in everything.
Yeah.
You know, and people, you know, they talk about, well, you know, the wading's hard, the water's deeper and everything, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know, if you're wading where you feel like you're wading, it's hard to wade. You're standing too far out in the river.
Right.
You know, those fish are a foot off the bank if it's 3 feet deep off the bank. Go stand in the sagebrush.
You see those guys in the outhouse hole,
Right.
and they're making this drift where they got their rod under their arm and they're trying to drop their fly to that fish
Right, exactly. It's like get the top of your boots wet.
Yeah, start close. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of people are like, well, when it's at 500, I stand out there to fish the outhouse hole.
Yeah, they're not there.
No, it's like back up 30 feet, man. Those fish all have moved inside.
And to that point, you know, the outhouse hole and Gray Reef, Trapper's Route's a great place to go and wade to get away from the crowd.
Especially right now.
Oh yeah, that's where we did that whole clinic that you were talking about. We did it all down there, and it was great.
If the road's dry.
Yes.
They put that gravel base down.
They did. All the way almost to whitetail.
Yeah.
So, Bean, how are you rigging these days?
Well, we were just talking about wading, and, you know, there's a difference between wading and what we do in the boat. But for me in the boat, about 4.5, 5 feet from the strike indicator down to my weight, which I have a double surgeon's knot to hold it in place. And that's usually an AB or BB, depending on where we're at and how deep the water is. Another 18 inches of 3X tippet, maybe 2X, depending on how dirty the water is, to a leech such as this, and we'll get pictures of this in a minute. And another 18 inches down to a rockworm.
Yeah.
It's about a size 12. And, you know, depending on the day, maybe even a midge below that, another 18 inches. The difference would be if you're wading, probably the same length, but maybe a little heavier weight to get down there quicker. Sometimes a little bit longer leader. It just depends on how the water is and how it's fishing. You know, the advantage of being in the boat is you get that long drift.
You get a manufactured drift.
Right.
And it eventually gets down there.
Right.
You know, you can go lighter, but I think a lot of people that wade fish and don't have success aren't getting deep enough.
Correct.
You know, we're getting down there eventually, but we have the boat and the 20-minute drift.
Yeah.
You know,
And
when you're standing in the water, you got to cannonball it. I think you got to get it right off the shelf. I can get you a 20-minute drift up.
And a lot of those guys are standing in the exact spot they need to be. You know, 90 degrees off of them is the hole, right where the fish are going to eat. But they're not down there quick enough. So play with the weight, the size of weights, and how much you have. So you know what you're looking at the water. get down there quick.
And I think a big rule of thumb with that is, you know, especially this time of the year when our hatches are minimal, you know, those fish are deeper in the water column.
Mm-hmm.
It's best to go more weight than not enough.
Mm-hmm.
When the hatches start, those fish are rising in that water column, and you don't need as much weight. But
Yeah, that's what I was telling my wade guys the other day. At least find the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, go there and back off.
Right.
You know, don't start light and, you know,
That's a
fish,
good
fish
point.
over
I
their
think
heads.
another good point too, like especially wade fishing, like, you know, the North Platte, it's not rocket science. Our hatches aren't, you know, like going to blow your mind trying to figure out what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
we have our hatches and they're pretty consistent. So mess with your weight, mess with your length, mess with your depth before you're going
Flies
to
are
change
trouble.
flies.
Before you cut off the rock.
Exactly. I mean, put on an extra
Yeah.
weight just to get down there, like you said, find
Yeah.
the bottom. Okay, now I might shorten up a little bit. But I think that happens a lot too. It's like, well, I didn't get anything. Well, you're not deep enough. So
Yeah.
And
put
another
a little bit
point,
more weight on there.
with our boats, you know, when I'm in a boat, I start shallow. I start closer to the bank until I find out which section of the water they're hiding in, and then fish. A lot of people just jet clear out to the same hole like we were talking about,
Mhm.
walk over the fish and fish the known areas. You know, start closer. If that's not working, move your way out towards the middle of the river instead of
Yeah.
starting out where you know
Yeah.
where they're going to be. That'll give you better opportunities, in my opinion.
Take it now.
Well, hopefully this helps you guys out with that water bump. You know, don't shy away from the water right now. The fishing is awesome.